Yo guys, welcome back to LeadFoot TV. So today I'm doing a little bit of a different video. Basically, we've nearly hit 1,500 subscribers, so I thought I'd do something a little bit different. Do like a kind of a video where I engage with you a little bit more, rather than you just watching me do stuff. So I put up on Instagram that I was doing a Q&A. And got you to ask me some questions, and I did the same on YouTube as well in the community section. So you've sent me questions, and today I'm just going to answer them. So I'll just get straight to it. First question was off Meeks from Jap Junk. If you haven't seen, if you don't know who Meeks is, go check out his channel Jap Junk. I'll stick a link to it in the description. He was the person that I bought the SR20 Micra off. He's a really nice guy. He's just started a project on an EP3 Civic Type R, so yeah, go check that out. And he actually did a video asking me a load of questions a few weeks ago, and I just didn't have the time to respond to it. And I actually was going to respond to it the other day, but I think he took it down because nobody replied to him, which is, yeah, sorry for not replying to you sooner. But yeah, one of the questions in that was what was my first car. That's about the only question I remember from the video. What was my first car? My first car was Mark II Golf. It was 1.8 driver. I spent literally every penny that I had on the car, and didn't really think about insuring it or anything like that. So I pretty much bankrupted myself because I was on an apprenticeship at the time. I was getting paid like 70 quid a week, and it was a terrible car to choose for my first car. If I went back, I probably would not buy it again. I'd like the car now. It would have been a nice car to have now, but at the time it was just a really impractical choice. Andy's asked as well, what's left to do on the Micra. So on the SR20 Micra is in the garage at the moment. I've taken all the panels off the front. And basically what I'm gonna do, it needs the drive shaft seals replacing, both bottom arms, and yeah, and I'm just gonna underseal all the inner arches and everything on the front just to stop all that rust from coming back where the welding was done. So that's what needs doing. I've sold the exhaust off it as well, so I will need to get an exhaust made for it. I just sold the exhaust basically because it was too loud, and it wasn't. I want to do something a little bit different with the exhaust. I'm not quite sure yet, but once the exhaust is back on it, it'll be good to go. So yeah, that's where that's at. And Sam Burners asked what the next mods for the Micra. So the 1.3 Micra, yeah, next mods for either of the Micras. So the 1.3 Micra I've bought a Takata harness for, because I'm going to do a couple of track days in that before I get rid of it. So there's a Takata harness going into that, and then the SR20 Micra obviously be the exhaust, because I need the exhaust doing before it can go back on the road. Yeah, and then I've got 13B Rotary Drifter asked, please can you buy a new rotary car? It makes me sad that you sold the RX-8. I probably will buy another rotary car. I don't know when it'll be. Definitely won't be until I've sold this Mazda 3 anyway. So yeah, basically I would like a yellow Mazda RX-8 321, or I would possibly consider buying a FC RX-7 as well, if I could find one at a reasonable price. But I will get one again eventually, but I don't know when it'll be at the moment. And Liam ZR has asked me if money wasn't an issue, would you turbo or supercharge the Micra? So I wouldn't do either, to be honest. I see a lot of people on the forums with the turbo Micras having a lot of problems with them. They don't seem that reliable, and I've just never been a really big turbo fan. Like, it sounds ridiculous. Like, obviously they're great. Having a turbo car is great. Like, you got plenty of power and torque and straight line speed. But I've always preferred the lightweight, rev happy, naturally aspirated kind of cars, which is why I was always into Hondas. So yeah, if I didn't have a budget, I probably wouldn't supercharge or turbo it. I'd probably either drop in an SR20 VE, which is pretty much what I've got now, but with variable valve timing. I think they push just over 200 horsepower, so that would be a cool little build. Or I've seen a lot of the rally people like make a hybrid from the 1.4 and 1.3 CG engines, so and they seem to be pushing good power out of those, like 150 to 180 horsepower, and it'd still be really light, because the problem with the SR20 is it's quite a heavy engine. So if money wasn't an object, I probably would just build a really ridiculous 1.3 Micra, just because I think it would suit my driving style a lot more. So yeah, that's what I would do. And then Joe has asked why a Micra. There's lots of other dailies out there, and news on the Skyline. So news on the Skyline is there isn't really any news on the Skyline. Basically it's just sat there waiting for work to be done on it, so I don't know when it's going to be back at the moment, but we'll see. Hopefully have it back in a month or two. And yeah, I didn't actually buy the Micra for a daily, I bought it as a track car, because I wanted just something simple and easy to work on and something reliable, which is why I've previously had Micras as my daily, is just because it's as close to stress-free motoring as you can get. So yeah, that's why I've always had Micras, is they're just reliable. So yeah, Dan AYP asked, so if you haven't checked out Dan is another YouTuber. He does a lot of videos on Hondas. He's currently building an EM1 VTI project. So yeah, go check his channel out. He's a really nice guy, and yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. So I'll stick a link to his channel in the description below. He's asked me what got me into cars. So I was always into cars. Like I was always into like old supercars, like I loved like the Lamborghini Countach. I was always obsessed with like the Mercedes 190 Evo 2 and stuff like that when I was younger. But the first real thing that got me like properly into cars was probably Fast and Furious.
I don't know, it's something about engines that calms me down, you know?
Because at the time I just had no idea that kind of scene even existed. Like I know it's really dated now, but yeah, just being able to modify your car just had never even occurred to me. Like that film came out when I was like 10, no, about 11, 12-ish, something like that. And I saw it and I was like, I thought it was just a made-up thing. Like I didn't think that people actually did that to cars. And yeah, that's what really sparked my interest. And then it was probably like, I was probably like 14, 15, and I was walking home from school one day and I just decided to buy a magazine from the shop on the way back. I bought like a magazine called Revs, which was basically like the equivalent of Max Power or Fast Car, and yeah, it went bankrupt a few years later, but it was pretty much the same. And like any car magazines back in that day was like 50% cars, 50% tits. So like if there's any way to sell cars to a 15-year-old kid, that's probably the way to do it.
I like boobies.
So yeah, that really got me into cars, and yeah, just got spiraled out of control from there pretty much. And he's asked as well, what was my first memorable experience of a car or cars. So my first memorable experience was actually a crash. So one of my first friends to pass their test, he passed his test about 6 hours, and then we were all pretty excited that one of us was driving, so we were out dicking around, and I remember being hanging out of the sunroof, and we drove past this 106 Quicksilver, and it started trying to race us. We were so I got back in the car, and then we were out, having this race, me and my other friend that was in the back said to him he needed to slow down because he was going too fast. He was like, no, I came around here earlier at this speed. He was probably doing about a ton, went into a corner and it just stepped out basically and went straight through a wall. Yeah, it was pretty bad. He tore all the ligaments in his leg, and the person in the back had no seatbelt on. He came out best out of all of us somehow. He pretty much had nothing wrong with him, but because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, he had to go to the hospital just to get checked for whiplash. I was in the front and my seatbelt didn't work, so I actually went through the windscreen. And yeah, I think I got knocked out for a little bit, and then I kind of came to at the other side of the windscreen, and the car was starting to set on fire. So all the doors in the back and everything wouldn't open, so we had to like pull my friend out through the front. And yeah, that was probably my first memorable experience in a car. Them two went to hospital, and I just walked home because I had a broken nose and I was fine other than that. So I walked home. I remember going into the kebab shop on the way back to get something to eat, and it was pitch black where we crashed, so there was no lights or anything. I walked into the kebab shop to get a kebab, and they all just like stopped and were like, what the fuck's wrong with you? And I had like a white t-shirt on, and there was just like blood all down the front of my t-shirt because I'd gone through the windscreen. So yeah, that was my first real memorable experience in a car. And Will Sell has asked what was my favourite car. I have two that are probably on par with each other. My first one was my red 3rd generation Civic. It was 1.5S, which was like a 1.5 carb model. It was really rare because they only sold the car for a year. I think it was in 1985. So it was extremely rare. I think there was only maybe 2 or 3 in the country when I had mine. It's actually been shipped out to America, that car now. It's in California, I think, somewhere like that. So yeah, that was one of my favourite cars. And then my second one would probably be my 4th generation Prelude. I loved that car. They're so underrated and so underappreciated, even within like the Honda community. So yeah, if you gave me a DC2 Integra and a 4th generation Prelude, and the price tag wasn't like you couldn't resell it, I'd actually take the 4th generation Prelude. I think it's a better car. I know so many people would disagree with me on that because just the scene tax and all the hype around the Integra, but if you have to really sit in a Prelude to understand it. And just like all the thought into the interior, there's much more thought in the interior, and you just don't see very many of them at all. And I just really liked it. I just thought it was an awesome car. I loved it. So yeah, Ben has asked me what my 3 most stupid call outs. So if you don't know, I have 3 jobs, but my main job is I work for a recovery company as like a breakdown technician. So I go out and fix cars at the side of the road. So he's asked me what my 3 most stupid call outs are. I've only got 2 that I can think of off the top of my head. Is I went out to a guy that tried to, he couldn't get his car started, and I got there and got him to try and start his car, and he was actually trying to start his car with his house keys. So a brand new car as well, and he was trying to start it with like a Yale house key. It was pretty difficult to keep a straight face, but yeah, that was one. And then the second one was a woman that drove all the way from London to like the Lake District, and she stopped at the services and then couldn't get her car started again. And I went out, and she basically wasn't pressing the clutch down. It was saying on the dashboard to press clutch to start, and she just wasn't pressing the clutch down to start the car, so the car wouldn't start. So yeah, those 2 are my most memorable 2. There's probably more if I really think about it, but yeah. So yeah, and then onto the YouTube comments, questions. So Dat Raticate, Pokemon's Raticate's a Pokemon. If you haven't watched the Detective Pokemon movie, you should definitely go check that out. It's awesome. Really loved it. But yeah, he's asking what made me start YouTube. So the main thing that made me start YouTube was just I didn't really like Facebook. I actually stayed off Facebook when Facebook started taking over. I wasn't on Facebook for like the first 4 or 5 years just because I didn't really like it. I just found it that like it's just a way of promoting negativity. So I kind of wanted a different platform, and I always really enjoyed like the forums. Like back in the day, I really enjoyed being on the forums and doing like build threads and following your build on the forum, and basically YouTube was like the next best thing to that, I guess. Is I was able to document my progress with all my projects and stuff, and like while I was documenting the progress, I could at the same time potentially help people with stuff. So yeah, and I just like that. I just find YouTube a much more friendly community than a lot of the other social medias. So yeah, that was what brought me to YouTube mainly. The other thing is I really suffer from a thing called borderline personality disorder. So I really struggle to talk to people that I don't really know very well. So yeah, like I was really bad at one point, and I would pretty much avoid talking to anyone that I didn't really know. And if I didn't know somebody very well, I'd really struggle to hold a conversation and stuff. Yeah, just because I don't know how to explain it. I guess I was like extremely like anxious and nervous, and I was really struggling with that. And I thought that YouTube would just be a really good way to try and help build my confidence up a little bit. I actually wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for my friend Ben. So Ben really helped me. I wouldn't say helped me. Well, yeah, he did help me, but probably just by forcing me to be in some videos. So yeah, he wanted to do some videos from my old company Heavyset that I ran with him, and yeah, we just did these little vlogs basically. And when I watch them back, I just look absolutely ridiculous because he just talks all the way through and I don't say anything at all. But just even being sat there in those videos is kind of like slowly stopped me being quite so nervous. So then I decided, once we packed up that company, that I would try and start my own channel on my own. And yeah, so I just started making videos on my own. I was ridiculously nervous at first. I really didn't want to do it, but I knew that it would just be a really good way to help build my confidence a little bit, and be able to talk to people a little bit better. So yeah, because I really hated avoiding conversations. Like I knew full well that it made me look like a dick sometimes, because I'd go out of my way to avoid a conversation because I was so nervous, and it probably made me look like an arsehole, and it still does. I still do it, like, but it, yeah, I didn't want it to be quite. I just wanted to improve. I just didn't want to be able to think everybody to think I'm an arsehole. I know a lot of people probably don't like me because of it. But it's just one of those things. You can't explain it to somebody, especially me. I can't explain it to them because I can't talk to them in the first place. But yeah, yeah, it is just difficult, and I just wanted to improve a little bit. So yeah, that was one of the things. So yeah, those are the two things that made me start YouTube. Mike Allington has asked, when's the next SR20 video? And what's your plans for that one and the old Micra? So the next SR20 video will be in a couple of weeks. I haven't done any work on it for a couple of weeks because I've been focusing on this Mazda 3, but I'm hoping at the weekend I can get some work done on it and yeah, make a little bit of progress with it. So hopefully I'll have another video up on the SR20 Micra next week or the week after. So yeah, and then the plans for that are what I just explained earlier, is just getting it all up and running and just getting it roadworthy basically, so that I can drive it and iron out any other issues that I find once I start driving it. And the old Micra is just staying as it is until I decide what I'm doing with the SR21. So and Dwayne Van Horick has asked, why do you love Micras? Like I explained earlier, is just they're reliable and easy to work on, pretty much as close as you can get to stress-free motoring, so that's why I love them so much, and they handle really well as well. So yeah, and then Thunderfire has asked, what's your opinion on the Mark V Supra? So the Mark V Supra, I've actually covered this before in a video. I'll stick the link to that at the top of the screen, but personally I don't really like the way it looks. I thought when the prototype came out, what was it? I think it was called the FT1. When the prototype came out, it looked absolutely stunning. I really loved the look of it, but they've just kind of dumbed it down a little bit since releasing it, and I just don't think the styling looks quite right, which is my main gripe with it. And but I think once people start modifying it, it won't matter. I think from like a couple of the renders that I've seen of the Mark V Supra modified, like fan art that people have done, like modifying them, they look really, really good. And I think once people start modifying them, it won't really matter too much. But yeah, and then the only other gripe I have with it is it being a BMW engine. Don't get me wrong, like if you're going to steal somebody's 6-cylinder engine, BMW is probably the people to go to, and I think it'll be an incredible engine and platform and stuff. But I just think with it being Toyota's like flagship car, it was just a bit lazy of them not to develop it all themselves. And I kind of get it. I get it a little bit with like when they got Subaru to design the GT86 and stuff. It kind of made sense with that, but with the Supra, I just feel like it should have really been all Toyota. But yeah, it'll still be an incredible car, and I'd love to drive one actually, because they're a lot smaller than the other the older Supras, because the older Supras were a bit of a tank. I've actually had a Mark III Supra before, and I've driven a Mark IV as well, and they're a bit of a tank, to be honest. Like, they're definitely overhyped. They're great cars, but they are a little bit overhyped. They're straight line cars really, and yeah, I think that the new Mark V will just be a much better all-round driving car. I think it looks like I think it'll handle better. It'll probably be on par nearly with tuning once people get the ball rolling. So yeah, that's my thought on the Mark V Supra. And then the last question is from Roadblock TV. They are another YouTube channel, so go check them out. They do some more Jap car stuff as well. Yeah, so go check them out. And they asked, do I miss the RX-8? So I do miss the RX-8. It was a great car, but I do not miss the fuel bill on it. So yeah, it was a great car to drive, but I just don't miss fuel in it. Even in this Mazda 3, like, I've got an extra like 70-80 horsepower, and it's still doing 10 miles per gallon more than the RX-8 was. So I don't miss it in that aspect, but as a car, it was much more fun to drive than this is. So I do miss it. I probably will have another one at some point, but yeah, but that's just the way it is, I guess. It wasn't quite the one that I wanted, so that's why I sold it. But yeah, go check out Roadblock TV. I'll stick a link to their channel in the description as well. Yo, so I realized that I've missed a couple of questions. So one of the questions was from my friend Merce. I thought I'd better do it because he's been really really good at supporting the channel since I started, and yeah, he's a really good friend. I don't see him enough, so if you're watching, Merce, we need to do more stuff. But he asked me if I would prefer a Micra to my own spec or a 3G Civic to my own spec, and honestly, I'd probably go for the 3G Civic. I wouldn't even want anything that crazy. I'd probably just want a bog standard 3G Civic Si. So the Si, a Japanese Si. So the Si is a Japanese import, and it came with the ZC motor, which was a twin cam 1.6 non-VTEC. So I think they were about 120, 125 horsepower, something like that. And I just love the way they look, and I think they look awesome. Just a standard one with maybe some Mugen MR5 wheels on it. But yeah, that'd be my dream car. Like, that would be my dream car garage. So yeah, I would love a 3G Si. But yeah, so, and then the other question was from the where he's actually asked quite a few. The moaning Yorkshireman. He actually asked the question just after I'd filmed the video, so I thought I'd squeeze it in because he has also been really helpful on the channel and putting a lot of input on the videos and asking questions and stuff. So yeah, thanks for engaging and keeping the channel alive. I really appreciate it. So he's asked a couple of questions that I've already answered anyway. So we'll go with the ones that I haven't answered, which is my dream car. What is my dream car? It's hard to say, to be honest. I think if I was a dream car, yeah, a dream car that I would just want to drive every day and just be my one main car, I'd probably have to, and although it's a really big cliche, is a R34 GTR. It would have to be in Bayside Blue or Midnight Purple. And that'd be my realistic dream car. Like, I've never been one for like really fancy supercars. It's just not me. I'm not that interested in it. But my my non-realistic dream car would probably be a what would I say? Mercedes 190 Evo 2. Also, and one of my other dream cars would be a Dodge Viper as well. Just, I've always loved them from like a really young age. I love the look of the Viper. I think it's one of the best looking cars on the planet. I know it's not the fastest. It's probably nowhere, not even close to being one of the best. Like, they're probably absolutely awful cars. They are on based off a truck chassis. It is literally like a truck chassis with a fiberglass shell on it. And I've seen a few up close, and they're not very well made. But I just love the look of it. But yeah, Dodge Viper or an R34 GTR would probably be my realistic cars. And his other question is, if you were to pick one car you've owned or currently owning to drive for the rest of your life, what would it be? My Prelude. Just because it was the best all-around car I've ever owned. It was good at everything. It was economical when you weren't driving it hard. And it had the power there when you wanted to drive it hard. It was comfortable. It had everything a modern car would have. It had power steering, aircon, electric windows, electric sunroof, heated mirrors, and I loved it. I thought it's just a perfect all-around car. Unfortunately, I ruined it. So, but if I could have it back again, I would just keep it original on some nice wheels, and that would be the car that I would pick to drive for the rest of my life. So the other question he's asked is, where do you see the channel in a year's time? Which is a really good question. I don't have a real like number-based goal, like whether it's at 2,000 subscribers or 15,000 subscribers. It doesn't really matter to me. I just want to be making videos that I enjoy, and as long as I'm doing that, then that's all that really matters. I've had businesses in the past, and chasing numbers and trying to get subscribers and everything is just like a really good way to make yourself down and get you depressed about stuff. So I just want to make videos that I enjoy, and hopefully in a year's time I'm still enjoying it. And it'd be good to do some more videos with my close friends, I think. The problem is, like, with being older, all my friends are always busy with other stuff. But it would be good to do some more videos with my friends and do some like bigger videos. I think not just following myself, like building my car. It would be good to do like some like videos of me going places and yeah, doing like challenges and stuff like that. That'd be cool. I would like to be doing that by a year's time. So yeah, that's where I see it anyway. And that is all my questions for today. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give the video a like, and if you would like me to do another one in the future, make sure you let me know in the comments down below, and maybe even drop some questions for the next one if I do another one. And yeah, catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace out.